Hey yo, is this thing on the right way? All right. Let's do things a little different since this is the very last week in MPL Philippines Season 14. And after 8 grueling weeks of back to back to back to, you get it, brutal, world class MLBB esports action, and of course, the world class predictions that followed. I think I have a solid average of about 5.5 out of 7 on a weekly basis. Find me better stats than that. We've come to this point. We're going full speed into playoffs weekend for MPL Philippines Season 14, and we're about to crown another champion. But before we get into that, as we do, I owe you guys some push ups, especially the teams I got wrong. So here's our look back and recap at week 8. And as well, quick word from our good friend Ray Ash about how the whole regular season went through. Let's pay the piper.
As Leo does push-ups, we'll go over the story of Season 14 of MPL Philippines. Week 1 starts off with Fnatic Onyx Philippines, Smart Omega, and Aurora stepping up to the plate right off the bat. Week 2 features halted momentum as TLPH and Omega had a win and a loss that week. FNOP continues their streak, and TNC is still finding their footing. Week 3, we saw a little bit of a fight from teams both striving and struggling. Week 4 is almost all sweeps, as it seems to be clear on which teams can win over the other, as Blacklist is the last team to gain a non-zero score. Week 5, the second half kicks off with steady momentum, teams racking up points until they are literally next to each other. Week 6 was the dawn of a new patch, and teams were working hard to play in a different environment. It's also a week with a Khalid usage spike, and it's all sweeps. Week 7, which is Leo's perfect week, is basically the better performing team wins over the other in terms of the standings. And finally, week 8 is where everything goes topsy-turvy. Despite RSG and TNC giving a huge fight, unfortunately we won't be seeing them in the playoffs. FNOP streak is broken at 13-1 in the hands of Omega, with old rivals clashing in the end. And now playoffs is set. By the way, here are the matches that Leo got wrong, giving us 30 push-ups. That's enough from me, no more wasting time, we all know what you're here for. The playoffs forecast.
Hopefully, the last set of push ups I do, because again, pretty confident, 100%. We might get the predictions as I did back in season 8, as I did back in season 9, and as I did close to the following years. Anyways, let's begin. What are the new things about this season's playoffs? Number 1, lower bracket is now a best of 7. Play-ins are still a thing, and the grand final is still a best of 7. And a thing I like to mention is if you're in the top seed and second seed, meaning you're in the upper bracket when the playoff starts, you're just 2 best of 5 wins away from representing the country in the next World Championship. So you just win 2 best of 5s, you booked your ticket. Now, let's begin. In the first round of the playoffs, you have 4 teams that just barely made it through, and teams that have gotten this close to 2 lives to begin with. We're starting off the playoffs with Smart Omega versus Blacklist International. One could assume, and one would not be wrong, if they felt like they were back in 2021, but with the roles swapped out, because this time it's Blacklist who's actually struggling. Blacklist, before week 6, was a shoe-in for an elimination. But lo and behold, role per role per role, they all stepped up. And through the leadership of Haji, and of course their coaching staff, with Coach Bonchan at the lead, he's always got a plan, they're here now. Smart Mike, on the other hand, are just on a whole nother level. All 5 players in the starting 5 and their coaching staff stepped up even beyond what Blacklist has done in the past 6 months. And I can tell you now, the way they play reminds me of an old Omega, wherein you sometimes wonder how the hell did they do that? You know, not to the superhuman, mutant MLBB levels of Fnatic Onyx Philippines, but there really is something there. You know, they got that it factor, whether it be on an individual level, given their talent and their appeal, but just in their technicalities. So with that said, imagine these two just going at it in a best of 5. Whoever loses gets dropped. Whoever wins moves up. I think Blacklist's black magic and their luck has run its toll. Sure, they will put up a good fight, but I think Smart Omega just technically much more sound, and they showed us much better performance in the regular season. It's easier to tweak that than to rely on a playoffs mode from such a young team. So I'm going to say it now. Smart Omega wins, moves on through the brackets. Match 2 in the playoffs features two teams that a lot of people had so many expectations for even before the season started. It's the defending champions, Team Liquid Philippines, facing off against the white-hot Aurora MLBB. Collectively, both teams have had enormous success internationally. Collectively, these two teams, they've had players that have gone the world and back. Millions collectively altogether of followers and fans, but here only one team moves forward. And it's been such a tough season for the defending champions, and to see them fall here just doesn't sit right with me. Luckily, the voice in my head also tells me they've done well with the break that we've had, and they should be in tip-top shape. I'm expecting that there'll still be Carl Tizzy in the jungle, and there really isn't much wiggle room for Aurora. I mean, I love Ben Things, but I don't think he's stepping in to replace the Hitman. And as much as it pains me, I'm physically ill to think that Renegade will not be moving forward and is dropping and losing in the first round. I really do believe Team Liquid Philippines playoffs mode is a thing. That's the heart of a champion. And I'm not saying Aurora doesn't have the heart of a champion, although there have been several champions collectively among the ranks. It's just Team Liquid, man. Liquid Stampede. Echo Express, you know what I'm talking about. You know that even if you are an Aurora, it's hard to deny the facts. So I'm going to say it now. Team Liquid Philippines beats Aurora, moving on through the playoffs. And with that, we have our upper bracket bouts. These teams now have 2 lives confirmed. Waiting in the wings for that first match would be Falcons AP Bren. And lo and behold, they're facing off against their old besties, which are now but a familiar face. The only real people left from that old besties era of Bren and Omega would be Chaknu for Omega, Flapteasy, and Few. That's it. So it's just a very new generation of players, very new talents, and that's a good thing, actually. I think there is a lot to expect from this match. It's going to get real technical. There's going to be a lot of back and forths. And if anything, I think it's Smart Omega who's going to be a little riskier, given that it's Jome versus Super Marco, the bulletproof versus the big one. That's Big J, all right? He makes big plays, and he wouldn't have it any other way. So with that said, I expect it to go the distance, but I think Falcons AP Bread is going to drop Omega to the lower bracket. It's not over for the barangay, don't worry. It's just the Bs are locked in, man. Very rarely do you see them lacking. Sure, the last time we saw them actually drop from out of nowhere is in the Grand Final Season 13. That's a long time ago. In the finals of MSC, sure, it took him to Game 7. Weird Eve pick. Still not over it. But here, I'm confident that Falcons can beat Omega, but it's going to be close. Next up, Fnatic Onyx Philippines with the 13-1 versus Team Liquid Philippines. Now, admittedly, I've given Team Liquid a lot of credit given their performance in the regular season. And Fnatic Onyx, one would argue they could have gone 14-0. I believe they could have gone 14-0, but they're 13-1, and Liquid had possibly the worst season they've had in years. So with that said, I think if you just look at the stats and you look at what they've done, what they're capable of, and what they could have grown and developed in the span of 2 weeks during the break, I'm not even sorry. I do think that Fnatic Onyx will beat Liquid here. Liquid are my boys, so are Fnatic. And this is not bandwagoning. You know how much I believe in Fnatic. You can go look back at the past couple of months. Might not even be close. Might even be like 3-1 at best. That's my bet. That's my call. So do it now. Drop Team Liquid to the lower bracket, but it's not over. Let's move on to the upper bracket finals. The slot for M6 up for grabs, the very first grand final slot in our playoffs. It's Falcons AP Bren versus Fnatic Onyx Philippines. It's a best of 5. Hold your horses. It's a best of 5. And it's a rematch. If you'll remember how the FCAP match versus FNOP round 1 went, I'm seeing it closer to that. Not the second round, not the under 10-minute match, all right? Like that. Falcons fans try to forget that. I don't. It's my job to remember, and I do. But something tells me it's going to be closer to the round one, and no less than 3-1. No less than 3-1. Take it from me. But Fnatic Onic will secure the very first slot to M6. All right? Sonics are going to Malaysia. Rejoice. A lot of space in the bandwagon. Get on it. FCAP down to the lower bracket. Now, who's going to face FCAP, you ask? We have two lower bracket bouts left, and it's the Fallen Omega versus the Fallen Liquid. This is going to get bloody. Like, if ever there were to be a scrappy ass match that knows no bounds, like even the draft will be super tight. Best believe Andorio and Carl are going to fight over that Hayabusa. They're going to have to stretch to get that Julian. And I might even see Carl like sweat to play the Fanny. Like that's how tight it's gonna be. Chaknu versus JP, catch on catch on catch. Don't get me started. Ryota versus Sanford. Like some of you will wonder, like, what the hell are they doing? And they're just making plays to open up, the other half of the map. Sanji versus Ukir. Come on, Sanji. Oh no. No, Benny versus Big J. Who makes the bigger plays? Who's gonna be called daddy at the end of the day? I don't know. But I'll tell you now, I know who wins. The forecast states Liquid will move on. The defending champions ain't gonna go down, not so fast, not like that. Omega might take them to game 5, so I'm looking at a 3-2. But I think at the end of the day, Liquid moves on. Now it's time for the lower bracket finals for the first time in MPL history. And I'm not just saying MPL Philippines history, correct me if I'm wrong. Blast me in the comments, but I don't think we've ever done a lower bracket best of 7 in any franchise, nor any just MPL in the history of our beloved esport. So this is the first time we're seeing a best of 7, and best believe it should be a best of 7 because it's the Clash of Titans once again. It's the Clash of Titans Reloaded Game of the Year Edition Deluxe Import Volume 2 Infinite Mode forever. That's it. Like they can just fight forever. I swear to God, they just fight forever, and we might even see them go 4-3 again. At worst 4-2. Like I would be disappointed if it was any less than a 4-2. I'm not even sure if I'm working that day, but to hell with it. I'll call a best of 7 back to back with the grand finals best of 7. I don't care. But here's the thing. Hot take. I'm gonna have to explain to my boys that their world tour is coming to an end. They're taking a break for Christmas because Liquid is gonna win. For the first time in maybe 6 or 7 months, Liquid actually takes down FCAP. No comment. No further details, Your Honor. We're moving on. Liquid is representing the Philippines at M6. It's them and Fnatic Onic Philippines. And they're also facing off in the grand finals. Another best of 7, a banger. Who here thought that in the year 2024, we would be seeing Fnatic and Liquid in MPL Philippines? Who would have thought that they would be raising their banners and fighting for their life to either defend their title or to achieve that of which they did not and cannot gain for the better part of 4 years? That's almost half a decade that Onic have been going for that crown. And it's crazy that the DNA of the first ones to deny it from them in Season 4, Sunsparks, runs in the veins of Team Liquid Philippines. Consider that. Consider that. The one hit na lang moment, the walang minions moment, that runs in the veins of JP, the current roamer of Team Liquid Philippines. Consider that. And how epic would it be if they were to meet in the grand finals here in Season 14. But, as I said, I'm going to leave it to your imagination how the match is going to go, but I'm going to tell you now, I think I know who wins. And what I tell you earlier in this video, there's a lot of space in the bandwagon. Get on it. Get your black, orange, and yellow clothes, because I'm going to tell you now, Fnatic Onic Philippines are your new MPL Philippines Season 14 champions. They're carrying that banner. They've broken history, and they're flying out to Malaysia, getting everyone scared into jimmies. As they should. Those are the champions of the Philippines, the strongest region in the world. And these are the strongest players mechanically, technically, individually. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Coach Wynot is running a school for gifted MLBB athletes. It's over. Call him Charles Xavier. He shaved his head once. He was bald before. Fanatic, they're the X-Men. They're the Filipino X-Men of MLBB. And they are going to be champions. That's the forecast. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's been a crazy season. You know what it is. If I got it right, I told you so. If I'm wrong, I'll see you guys at Green Sun. Peace.